Nordhoff, Mr. Fiorini, Mr. Natoli.
Well, first off, I applaud the idea. It should be integrated, and there are certain things that should be included in the analysis. So I think that's fine. My concern, and initially I'll try to look at the downside. How long is it going to take? How long or how much is it going to cost? Let me finish.
Yeah,
Let me finish this. This is just the analysis itself.
Right.
How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? And what impact is it going to have on the Bay Delta plan, the BDCP?
In terms of the analysis itself.
The analysis.
How long the analysis.
And who's going to do it? You don't have to answer this now.
Yeah, okay.
These are just some of the questions. So, intrinsically, I think it's a good idea. But I am concerned about the implications it has for where we are now. It adds a few layers of complexity, and we're having trouble dealing with a diminished playing field right now. I'm just worried about how long it's going to delay things before we can actually get something done. And I guess the next question is, why 3,000? And if you were to take the cost of putting in a straw, Greg, to use your terminology, that has that size for 3,000 CFS, if you were to double it, what would the increase be in the cost? If it's only going to be 25, 30%, and probably that's what it's going to be, then it makes sense to go a little bit more. We talk about, well, if it's too small, we'll put another one in. This thing is going to take a long time and a lot of effort to get done. To try to do that again later on, saying, gee, we made a mistake, it wasn't big enough, that's really going to be horrendous. So I think if we are able to put a straw in, it's, we're going to live with it for a long time. And I guess the other questions would be really for Dennis. What's happening in San Diego? What will be the amount of water used in San Diego? What percentage increase now versus 2020? Is it going to increase? Is it going to go down?
Yeah, total water demand in 2020 will be higher than it is today. Our purchases from Metropolitan will go down in real numbers from 274,000 acre-feet in this last year down to 231,000 acre-feet in 2020, despite that growth in demand for water.
So none of that whole savings will be done locally. It will not be imported. You won't be jumping over Met to get water out of the Colorado directly as opposed to through Met.
Well, you got to keep in mind that between now and 2020, we're still ramping in our Imperial Irrigation District water transfer. So we're at 100,000 acre-feet from IID this year. It doesn't top out, it doesn't complete the ramp in of the IID transfer until 2021 at 200,000 acre-feet. So it's not just local supply development, but our QSA supplies from the Imperial Irrigation District will continue to meet demand between now and 2020, and then, of course, every year beyond that.
So critical in here is the fact that the usage of water in the Met forecast for San Diego is grossly exaggerated.
Well, yeah, and you multiply that by not only not considering the projects being developed in San Diego, like the Carlsbad project, but there are other projects the other member agencies are pursuing that also aren't considered.
I'm using the San Diego general area.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, they're the major questions I have.
Yeah,
and it's really just digging down a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to address your earlier questions and then give it considered thought over time. How long will it take to do the analysis? Don't know. Certainly the BDCP should be doing it. The staging of this analysis compared with progress on the existing environmental documents and whatnot can be factored in. We do on big projects where situations change, certified EIR, EISs, and have to go back and do supplemental or addenda.
Well, I mean, that's an issue you're going to have. Should BDCP do this, or should it be done? Because they've got a lot on their plate, more than they can handle right now, or should it be done by somebody else?
That's a good question. Don't know what the exact answer to that is, but to address your point, if you don't begin now, and you find out several years down the road that a package like this...
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth delaying a little bit just to do the analysis.
And let me observe on that point, because I think that is the key point. It isn't how much it costs to run the numbers. They've got people who can do it, and I understand DWR has just significantly upgraded its calcium capability, which used to take a lot more, they can now do much quicker. But I think the seminal question, is this a delay? Well, let me observe. How many years are we into BDCP? And there ain't a project yet. You can put out paperwork, you can put out 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 pieces of paper, and there's not a project that is politically, technically, financially feasible. You haven't had anybody come in to you. How long have you been meeting? 3 years?
85 years of time. I've been
Who's come in, which exporters come in and said, I got cash, I'm ready to pay for this? There's a reason for that.
Nobody has come in ever
Exactly.
offering to do
And
anything
so,
like that.
so does it take a while? The problem, this is an analysis for the sake of analysis. This is trying to help people get to a project that can be built. And I don't think they're there now.
You're screaming at the converted.
All right.
There's going to be a delay. The question is, how much of a delay? And as our esteemed general counsel pointed out earlier this morning, this is a crisis situation.
Yeah.
We got to move.
You just add a couple of things. You asked why 3,000 and not something else. 3,000, in my view, is kind of the minimum that will provide a lifeline for the economy of the state in the event of a catastrophe. I mean, I guess you get in a 2 million acre feet, that's the same as you get in a drought, and we can live through droughts, so we can live through that. If I were doing it, if I were designing it, I wouldn't necessarily do it that. I mean, we see some of the plans on the 9,000. You build the tunnels big enough, you can go bigger if you need to later on. I'd drill the 4,500 tunnel and decide later whether you go 3 or 4,500 or 6. You start with 3. You can always put in another intake and raise the
Cost analysis will be important.
Yeah. So
Right.
you're
Certainly
making
it's not
that
gonna
one
cost
simply
twice as
to
much to double the capacity.
Yeah,
It's gonna
making
be
that
less.
one expandable is you only want to drill that tunnel once, But you can always, it's not like you're renting the tunneling machines. You bought those suckers when you do something this size, and you go mothball them. You bring them back
That's because
and
they've been
build the other
ground-
tunnel.
by
if
the
you
end of
need
the
to.
process, they're ground down to
exactly.
It's not just the cost of the tunneling machines. It's a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I know they're expensive. That's you're not throwing them away. And we've been through that. We've done tunneling in the Delta. In terms of how long how long it will take, a lot of these pieces have been done. They did a study a long time ago in the BDCP and quickly hit it. That showed basically this thing really works really well with lots of storage and doesn't work very well, as we've already seen, without it. The other thing about 3,000 CFS is that when you go through the studies, you get something like 80, depending on the operations, because everything really depends on operations and less on size. You get 80 to 90% of the water supply benefit in the first 3,000 CFS. And everything else on all the next size increments is marginal after that. So, I mean, that's another reason for starting at that level. I still got my number in an envelope where I think it's going to come out. But
And it depends on why you're doing.
I'll open that later.
Yeah. It depends on why you're doing the analysis. If you're doing the analysis to prove why this is a bad idea, okay, that takes a certain amount of time. If you're doing this to try to explore what could work, then not only do you have to do the analysis, then you have to look at the analysis and you have to think about it and say, what if we move this a little bit and that a little bit, the storage size, the conveyance size, and so forth, and to where you find that sweet spot. And that's when you land on a project. I mean, all the projects I've done that have been built, you go through that process, you see some endpoints, some bookends, you refine it, and then you get to one people say, I can live with it.
Mr. Fiorini, then Mr. Natoli.